It measures 1.5 by 1.25 inches, weighs less than a feather, and is printed on ordinary paper. For its weight and size, it's the most valuable item in the world. The 1-cent magenta is the rarest of stamps. In fact, there's only one, and you're looking at it. The story of the stamp begins in April 1856 in the South American colony of British Guiana. Postal officials were waiting for their regular shipment of stamps from England when they ran out. So a printing company was hired to make a temporary batch. The new stamps were nothing fancy, just a simple picture of a ship to imitate the colony's seal. They were printed with ordinary black ink on magenta-colored paper, and to prevent counterfeiting, the assistant postmaster initialed each stamp. Once the real stamps finally arrived, the 1-cent magentas were pretty much forgotten. Until 17 years later, when an English schoolboy and amateur stamp collector noticed an unusual little stamp in his attic. He sold the penny postage to a local collector for $1.50. Good money at the time, but barely a pittance of what the stamp would be worth.
This stamp is absolutely unique. There is none other. It is the only stamp missing in the British colonial collections of Queen Elizabeth.
As it turned out, his magenta was the last one left in the entire world, and over the next century, stamp collectors worldwide would covet it. As the magenta's fame grew, so did its price tag. In the 1930s, the 1-cent magenta sold for $37,000, more than 24,000 times what the little boy got for it. Then, in 1970, businessman Irwin Weinberg bought it for a whopping $280,000, the highest price ever paid for a postage stamp at the time. Weinberg and the stamp were front-page news across the world, something the buyer had banked on. Weinberg, it turned out, was an investor who planned to hold the stamp until its price increased, then resell it at a profit. But he wasn't about to sit around and wait. To jack up its value, he took the magenta on a wild publicity tour.
We took it to London, we took it to Paris, Berlin, New Delhi, India. We took it to Prague, Czechoslovakia. We took it to New York. We took it by helicopter, armored cars, just about everything but a submarine.
Weinberg didn't just check the stamp with his baggage. He kept the 1-cent magenta in a briefcase, handcuffed to his wrist and surrounded by armed security. The gimmick did backfire once, when the handcuff key broke, and the case had to be cut off with a hacksaw. The publicity campaign paid off handsomely. In 1980, Weinberg sold the stamp for $850,000, by far the most ever paid for a mere postage stamp. But who was the buyer? It turned out to be eccentric millionaire John DuPont, who personally flew in to pick up the stamp.
I have been told that he kept it in his bank vault, excepting when he brought it home and slept with it under his pillow.
If and when the magenta goes to auction again, collectors estimate it could very likely double in price to nearly $2 million. A pretty penny for a little 1-cent stamp. The 1-cent magenta is still in the possession of the estate of John DuPont, who is currently serving a 30-year sentence for the murder of an Olympic wrestler.